In 2012, I chose Empowering Women to Lead the Male-Dominated Workplace as the tagline to my website. At the time, I thought most women felt empowered to work alongside men and see themselves as equals, but we still weren't ready to take that final step out front to lead men. Well, I soon learned that many women didn't feel empowered, and they still struggled with their inequality. And to be perfectly honest, my reaction to this was, we're in the 21st century, so why don't you feel empowered? And that's when I realized that many women had a very different perspective on empowerment than what I had learned from working with men. So in this video, I'm going to discuss the different perspectives men and women have on empowerment and why women's perspective is not only antiquated, but it leads to our continuing inequality. Let's start by understanding the dictionary definition of empowerment. Empowerment refers to policies and measures designed to increase the degree of autonomy and self-determination in the lives of people and in communities in order to enable them to represent their interests in a responsible and self-determined way, acting on their own authority. This definition of empowerment comes from the teachings of Plato and assumes most people can't manage their own lives properly. Therefore, we need a group of superior people, called Philosopher Kings, to decide how much autonomy we're allowed over our own lives based on their determination of how capable and responsible we are. So, if we want more autonomy, then we have to ask their permission to receive more empowerment. Now, I hope everyone is hugely offended by this, and you're wondering, who are these people, and what makes them think they're so much better than me that they think they can run my life better than I can? Now, originally, there were only Philosopher Kings, and as a woman working in traditionally male jobs and male industries, I was no stranger to men telling me what I could and couldn't do just because I was a woman. Back in the 1980s, I was in the Air Force, and they wanted me to take a particular assignment. So I asked, can I go as a combat engineer? And I was told, no, women aren't allowed in combat. So I turned down the assignment, but I kept pushing back. So why can't I be a combat engineer? And I guess I made enough phone calls and questioned enough people that eventually I was sent to combat engineer training. However, once I was there, I was told to stand on the sidelines and watch the men. After about an hour of being frustrated, watching my male colleagues' incompetence, I left the sidelines and started telling him what to do. And a few minutes later, I just took over from him. From that point on, my attitude was, if you're not going to let me do something because you have a paternalistic attitude or you have an elitist attitude, fine. But you damn well better be able to do the job better than me, because if you can't, you will be hearing from me. And a lot of people heard from me. Now, you probably think that my male colleagues thought I was a real bitch, but they didn't, because they recognized that I was acting just like them. I was exercising my autonomy. Now, when I talk about autonomy, a lot of women don't know what I mean, and this is a big reason why men feel empowered and women don't. After working with thousands of men, I've come to think of autonomy as men's personal declaration of independence. As teenagers, they couldn't wait to become legal adults, so they were no longer under their parents' authority and no longer had to ask their parents for permission. As legal adults, they have autonomy and self-determination. They are free to do what they want, when they want, how they want. So autonomy tells men they are 100% empowered. Men carry their autonomy and empowerment into the workplace, and we see it reflected in one of their favorite workplace phrases, "It's better to ask for forgiveness than permission." Men believe children ask for permission. Adults don't. Adults are responsible and accountable. They know what work needs to be done. They're competent in doing their work, and they can be trusted to get it done. But men also realize that if they all run around doing whatever they want, whenever they want, however they want, there'll be chaos. So they accept there will be laws, rules, and policies that limit their autonomy in order to promote the common good. Men also know limitations can be abused, so they challenge any new law, rule, or policy to ensure it exists to support the common good and not just to give someone arbitrary power and control over them. As women, we need to understand that to men, empowerment isn't something that's delegated downward. To men, empowerment inherently belongs to the grassroots, and it's something that is voluntarily surrendered and delegated upward in order to support the greater and common good. And men believe so much in this form of grassroots empowerment that they wrote the 10th Amendment of the United States Constitution and made it the law. So to men, that dictionary definition of empowerment is null and void. This is why throughout my career I never wrote one policy giving men permission to do more, but I wrote lots of policies to limit their autonomy. Now a few of them were because men proved to me that I couldn't trust them to act responsibly. But the vast majority of the new policies were actually new procedures that my team and I developed together. Working as a team respected their grassroots empowerment and ensured everyone's needs were addressed. The policies were then accepted and adhered to because everyone understood how they benefited the common good of the team. And our new policies? Well, they replaced the ineffective corporate policies that were handed down to us. I never asked the corporate office for permission to revise or implement the new policies. We just did it because it needed to get done. Stepping forward and doing something just because it needs to get done is a very adult attitude, but unfortunately, it isn't one women are conditioned to have. Over the years, most of the women I've supervised have asked permission to do something that they recognize needed to get done, but was outside their normal scope of work. So instead of giving them permission, I asked them, "So what's stopping you?" And after they thought about it for a few minutes, they realized the only thing stopping them was their own perception that they needed to ask permission to do more than they've been allowed to do in the past. As women, we still follow the dictionary definition of empowerment because a century ago we needed new laws to give us legal rights. This conditioned us to accept that empowerment is something we're granted. So even though we're in the 21st century, women still think we need more laws, rules, and policies to further our empowerment and equality. But this only deepens the disparity between men and women. To men, being empowered through permission makes empowerment an oxymoron. We can't have self-determination if we have to be given self-determination. So when women ask for more laws, rules, and policies to give us more empowerment, men believe we still see ourselves as children and treat us as such. This is why we need to think like 21st century women and reverse how we think of our empowerment. Like men, women should assume that once we become legal adults, we have our autonomy and we are 100% empowered. Our self-determination says we are free to do what we want, when we want, how we want, and to be who we want. It then takes laws, rules, and policies to limit our autonomy. And just like men, when a law, rule, policy, or male colleague impacts our autonomy and self-determination, we are fully empowered to stand up for ourselves and question if they're trying to support the common good or they just trying to exercise power and control over us. As women, we have a lot of conditioning to get past, but we also have to recognize that we're being purposely conditioned to accept that dictionary definition of empowerment because, as women, we have a tremendous ability to mobilize the grassroots into action. And with our action, we can tear down paternalistic and elitist power structures and ensure power remains with the grassroots. Now, as you can imagine, this idea doesn't sit well with people who want to identify themselves as philosopher kings and queens. So to keep their status, they must keep women believing that we aren't fully empowered and we need them to grant us more empowerment. But this is where we exercise our self-determination and say, we are empowered. This is Dot Callahan asking you to help me turn the woman in the room into the women in the room. Sign up for my newsletter, subscribe to my YouTube channel, or find the Woman in the Room on Facebook. It's up to you. Just keep watching and sharing my videos to get advice from a woman who's been there, dealt with that, and knows what works.